Hey fellow fans, it's Super Dad 2. I'm here with M. Apollo. Jay Achilles won't be joining us. He's off to the Marine Corps. He's starting his own adventure, so he won't be in this particular video. Today we're going to look at the Golden Axe Battler. Now I remember this character from the video game Golden Axe. I think it was the late 80s or early 90s. My first system was a Sega Genesis, not to be confused with the Atari I had as a kid. But I remember this, and he was kind of a He-Man ripoff, if I remember correctly. Even in the artwork here, he looks a little like Dolph Lundgren. We'll get a chance to take the figure out and see exactly what he looks like. What are your initial thoughts about this, M. Apollo?
I think his outfit is interesting, to say the least. I don't really see how tactically sound just underwear and boots are in battle, but I think that the dragon is what sells this, because it's just a really cool looking dragon.
Yeah, to be honest with you, it was the dragon that really caught my attention. I don't really intend for the figure to actually be the character for the dragon. I'm probably going to use it for some of the Mythic Legions. We're going to pop this puppy open and take a look at it and see what you all think about it. All right. The figure comes with 3 sets of hands, as well as a extra head with kind of a grimacing look. You can see it there down at the bottom. I'll zoom in just a little bit so you can see a little bit more of it. I really like the work on the dragon, though. I probably enjoy the dragon figure more than I do Axe Battler. But we're going to do some posing with it so you can look at it. You can see that the dragon comes with a fireball down there, which is pretty nice. And we bring it around and you can see that you've got the sword. It's kind of a nice sword. I mean, it's not Excalibur or the Sword of Thundera, but it's a generic sword. All right, so we're going to do just a couple of poses so you can take a better look at the figure. Here we've got another pose. Change the head out so you could see it, and change some of the hands out so he could hold his sword. And just take it around a little bit. And again, you know, I'm always impressed when the figures stand on the wheel without falling over. And naturally, the dragon's going to be standing because it's got 3 points there of balance. But the Axe Battler stands pretty well. As a matter of fact, it looks like his feet have a smaller base than some of the Fight for Glory figures that we reviewed last week. He's a good-looking figure. We're going to kind of take it around. We'll do a couple more poses, then I'm going to get right into the articulation, because from that you'll be able to see exactly how well the figure stands on its own. Again, just taking it around so you can see the figure's got some pretty good balance on it. I mean, the idea of standing a figure just on one leg is one thing. Putting it on a turntable and watching that thing pivot around and keep its balance. Again, having the figure stand is one of the big issues that I always have when you're posing, because you're posing the other figure, that figure starts to fall down. But you see, he holds his balance pretty well. So let's get into the articulation. All right, so we're going to take a look at the figure's articulation, Axe Battler. And as you can see, he comes pretty standard. If you're accustomed to Storm Collectibles, you know that they've got good articulation. So he's got his standard waist swivel. Try not to get my hands in the way too much here. But he's got a good waist swivel. Turns back. It's nice and tight, so it's not like it's too loose. And then he's got his midsection joint where he can look back. His head moves up, side to side a little bit there. He's got double jointed elbows. He's got his bicep swivel. He's got his shoulder swivels, which actually come out. They have a butterfly joint, which is great. Then his legs, he's got double jointed knees, which looks really great. His motion can come way up. He's got his toe joint. So he's got some really good articulation. His legs come all the way out. He can do a full split. You know, so there he is there. He can go all the way down. I mean, a full split. So he's pretty well articulated. So next, I think we're going to take a look at the dragon. So I get it. He's the second figure in the set. So his articulation is a little more limited, but it's not terrible. If we start with his head, he's got a good motion where it's going up and down. Oops, and it comes off pretty easy, but it pops back into place pretty easy as well. So he can move side to side with it, go up and down. Now his neck just twists. There is no joint here in the neck. And his arms are pretty good. Again, the figure, the pieces do come off, but not to a point where it becomes a problem. You just have to be careful. I'm holding him at a weird angle. So he's got tail articulation that just goes side to side. It doesn't move up or back. And again, I understand that because this is the second figure in the set. So he does have swivels. His knees do move out about that far, and then they come back. And you can see that his feet swivel, and they're hinged as well as his toes. He's got articulated toes, which is great. The only thing about the figure that would be better is if the legs came out. They don't. They simply move forward and back. But again, for it to be the second figure, I'm not complaining too much about it. I really like the dragon as a steed, though. Like I said, we're gonna pose him with some other figures, and you'll get a chance to see him. I don't know if I talked about his hands. They do swivel, and they are hinged, so that's good. So he's got good motion there. Let's bring him back. So he does have good motion, and I should mention that the actual figure, I didn't talk about his wrists, but he's got good swivels, up and down. They are hinged. I got to learn to handle these things a little more gingerly. But yeah, his hands do swivel. They do bend. They have the joints that are there. So they move very well. All right, next I think what we're going to do is we're going to pose them with some of the other figures.
So here we have the Golden Axe Battler with his dragon, and I know we already showed him to you guys before, but we're just, giving you guys a point of reference. Now we're going to put him next to some other figures that we think would go well with him, such as the Mythic Legions and the Fight for Glory figures. Here we have one of the Mythic Legions Valkyries on the Axe Battler's dragon. As you can see, she does go a little bit better with the dragon than the Axe Battler, in my opinion, just because the proportions kind of match a little better. Unfortunately, if you guys notice, her feet don't go into the stirrups, which is kind of a bummer because she would fit even better if they did. One thing I also noticed is that for this figure specifically, her armor and colors don't really match the dragon, so I do think there's better figures out there that we'll try that probably fit the theme of the dragon a little bit better. Here we have Tila from the Masters of the Universe. She, in my opinion, goes a lot better with this than the Mythic Legions figure. As you can see, her feet do actually fit in the stirrups for the most part, and her color scheme does match. I think that the kind of hues of orange and brown cross between the dragon and the figure nicely. In my opinion, though, there still is room to improve because the dragon kind of has a Norse look to it. So we're going to try out some figures with a more kind of Norse theme to them in a second.
Here we have yet another Master of the Universe figures. I believe this one is Adora, the unchanged version of She-Ra. If I don't have that right, I still like the figure. Her colors match a little better, but she really doesn't have that warrior look. And I think her steed is Swiftwind, who is a Pegasi or a Pegasus. But just wanted to show another figure yet on the dragon. I think the dragon, I agree with Michael. I think that we have a better fit with female figures.
We have a Seventh Kingdom figure. In my opinion, I think that this one goes the best with the dragon. Just kind of fits the Norse theme. I also think that the red hair kind of complements the red on the dragon nicely. As you can see, she's a little bit smaller than the other figures, but in my opinion, that works in the dragon's favor because it makes the dragon look larger and more fierce. But again, I don't think her feet would fit very well in the stirrups, so there's also that downside.
Here we have yet another Mythic Legion figure. Now I'm going to disagree with them, Apollo, just a little bit. I think this actually is the best figure to go with the dragon. It kind of has that whole Norse theme as well. If we talk about Fafnir or Fafnir, that king who became a dragon. And even though I know that the Valkyries are very well noted for riding Pegasi, especially if you watch the MCU universe or even the Marvel Comics version, but I think this figure goes the best with it. So I get where Apollo's coming from when you start talking about, well, the other figure is smaller, the Seventh Kingdom is smaller. Alexandra, I think, is her name. But I really like this figure on the dragon. So, adding Conan to the mix, because you all know what a fan of Conan I am, and if you don't, I am. So Conan would probably be more likely to slay this dragon than actually ride it. But there have been stories where he's joined other armies and he's had to take unusual steeds. I think he looks great on this dragon, even though it's probably not the likely steed for him. All right, so we're going to move on to our last figure.
Last but certainly not least, we have one of the Fight for Glory gladiators. I'm gonna be honest, this doesn't really work in my opinion. He is my favorite looking action figure out of the ones we've shown, but the more realistic style of him, tied with the more fantastical style of the dragon, honestly, it doesn't really work very well in my opinion. I would probably stick to one of the more fantastical female Norse figures for this dragon personally, and kind of stay away from the more realistic type figures.
All right, so our next review is going to be on the Storm Collectibles skeletons. We'll work that out and we'll get that all to you. Until then, peace out, everyone.
Peace out, guys.